Hi, everyone. Welcome to Galit Speaks. I am here with a very special guest today. Her name is Asherah Boyer, and we are going to be talking about healing from sexual assault and trauma. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Asherah, and then we're going to get started. So, Asherah is actually French, and she lives in the wilderness of an ancient forest in southern France. She's a psychologist, kinesiologist, flower essences practitioner, initiate in the spiritual path of universal sufism, dance leader and mentor, and framedrummer. Her unconventional healing journey has included speech therapy, various holistic modalities, experiencing the medicine of cacao through the creation of a successful chocolate brand, and embodied spirituality. She has created her own healing practice called inner gardening, a spiraling process in the depth of your being that unites body, mind, and soul and liberates you from your past and helps women who face abuse reclaim their sovereignty, their joy, their pleasure, and their vitality. So, welcome, Asherah.
Thank you, Galit. Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be your guest. Thank you for having me.
Same. I'm so honored to have you here, and I want to know a little bit more about your journey. How did this start, and how did you get into it?
Wow, it's a huge question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many different layers, as everyone's life. Um, let's say that my life started. I was between 3 and 4. Started with a big shock. My father left, and I didn't hear from him until I was 17. And then when I was 17, for various reasons, we met again, and my father raped me.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that lasted for something like 4 or 5 years. He completely brainwashed me into believing that this was normal and that this was the way he was showing love to me. So that was piling up with the first trauma I had from him leaving and his absence for so many years. And well, I did my best to survive, as probably all trauma survivors. We are doing our best with keeping with silence, with shame, with guilt, with frozen emotions, all that. And that's only quite a few years later when I moved to England, and believing that fleeing abroad would cure all my problems. And well, of course, wherever you go, your problems come with you.
Yes,
So
definitely.
so when my work colleagues started giving me the nickname the Ice Cube, I had such a shock that I started realizing that actually I was not handling my trauma, and that I needed some help. So
Yeah,
that's when my search for true healing started. Yeah.
that is a crazy moment of realization. right? Because uh, as many victims of sexual abuse, you bottled everything up and just tried to run away from it and really like disconnected yourself from your emotions. And it took other people realizing and saying something for you to recognize it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's the color. I don't know the name, but the word for that. But the when we are in a dissociated state, we have we don't see. We just don't see. So we think we handle things, and we wonder, oh, but why am I feeling anxious when I'm with people? Why is it difficult for me to be alone with another man, even if it's a friend or even if it's your boss or whatever? But you don't really, I mean, it was my case, and I think it's the case of many people who experience trauma. We have symptoms, but we don't understand them because we are in a dissociated state. So it takes a kind of electroshock to kind of wake you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I resonate with the ice cube so much because so my childhood is I had a father who abused me. It wasn't sexually, but it was physical abuse. And later on in life, I did have some sexual abuse that happened. Um, and I used to literally say I had an ice chest. And that's how
Mm,
I dealt with things. I would put it inside my ice box and I would close it off with walls of ice and then never think about it again. But it would show up in all of these other places of my life where I was acting out, even though I wasn't, you know, acknowledging the fact that these things had
yeah,
happened to me or even talking about them at all.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's really true that we are building, and that's very natural. We are building a protective shell with ice, with freezing. That's one of the natural response. And I think if we would have had the some support right away, that would have changed things. Because trauma for me is a shock. We say it's too much too quickly for our system. But if we have a support system that comes right away and that help us release the emotions, release the sensation, cry, feel our anger, then we don't need to freeze. But we live in a society where women are conditioned to keep silent, where talking about sexuality and sexual abuse it's taboo.
Yeah.
We are conditioned to, when we feel something uncomfortable, we are not educated to let it move and feel it. We are educated to block and freeze all our emotions because they are not acceptable. So I think this is one very important aspect of how the trauma keeps us in this ice box for so many years. And that's one of the reasons why I have become an advocate of breaking the silence and melting the ice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so incredibly important to do it. So after you had the initial aha moment, right? And you realized, hey, I have all these things that I'm not dealing with. What was your first step in healing?
Hmm. So I came back to France to start talk therapy. And I did that for something about 9 or 10 years. And it was really the first step because it helped me break the silence. I I talked about my trauma. I talked about my experience to my mom and to my family. So it really started the journey for me, and it started also um, processing my own understanding of what had happened, because I was 17. So it raises a lot of questions. I was a young woman. I was I don't know how you say it, but sexually awakened. So I had a lot of shame and guilt about why did I let that happen to me. So I had to really go back to really understand my inner psychology, to realize why that happened, and to make to court so that I could be recognized, acknowledged as a victim. And that was a really important part of my journey. But what happened is that when I got acknowledged as a victim, I had a second shock, because it didn't bring me the relief or the peace I was expecting.
Right.
It changed nothing. So, I started wondering how come I was expecting that for so many years, and now it's like nothing happened. My system is still the same. I still feel I'm a victim. I'm not happy. I'm not attracting the relationships I want to. I'm attracting abusive relationships.
Yeah.
uh, I'm not vitality. How come? So that's when I decided to go look into my body. And that's when I realized that what I would say now, of course, at the time, I wouldn't have said that, but talk therapy can only go so far. But then the trauma is stored in your cells, it's stored in your brain connections, it's stored in your heart. And that, to me, are some spaces where you can't go with talk therapy.
Yeah. So that leads me to, well, I have actually two questions about what you just said, because I know that the first step towards healing for a lot of people of SA, of sexual abuse, is going and confronting their abuser and going to police. That a lot of times we shut down, and then if it does come out, a lot of people are scared to take that step of going to police and actually filing a report and basically telling the world, hey, this happened to me and I was a victim of
Yeah.
sexual abuse, because it's like so tied in with this shame. Was there anything with that experience of coming forward that did help?
Hmm. Let me feel into that. What comes to mind is welcoming the shame, because we feel shame. That's part of the experience. And to me, it has been really um, becoming gentle and kind, and opening my heart to my own shame, and And you
Oh no, are you still there? Okay, so I think we lost Asherah for a little bit. I want to hear the answer to that question. I will say, for me, there was a time that when I experienced abuse, I did go to the authorities. There were a few times that I did not. And to this day, I have not. And I'm sure the statute of limitations is up. But I will say that the moment that I did go to authorities, I felt I was taken seriously, but nothing ever came of it. And that hurt. Oh, Asherah is back. Let me add her here.
it's
Hi.
very
Oh, oh no. Dropped again. I believe that Asherah is coming to us from France, from the woods. So I'm sure she'll be back. I did. Um, I had an ex-boyfriend who, after I broke up with him, uh, physically assaulted me and sexually assaulted me. And I did report him to the authorities, and he was arrested. He did end up serving time, but it was actually not because of me. It was because of priors that he had, and that seemed okay to me. Oh, Asherah is back.
I
Oh.
think it's the right time now. My computer completely turned off because of the heat in the forest, so I'm with my
Oh,
phone. I'm sorry.
it's all good. I'm usually in Arizona, and that happens all the time on my phone. When I'm outside, I forget sometimes that I'm in the sun, and it just cannot handle that kind of sunshine. um,
Yeah, sorry. So you were speaking about
yes,
your story. Yeah.
I was just telling my story where, yes, I did have one time when I went to authorities, and my ex was arrested for what he did to me, but he wasn't actually prosecuted for what he did to me. He had um, prior I don't even know what to call it, prior convictions or something
Mhm.
that he had not dealt with. He had like skipped bail, and I did not know about that when we were together. And he actually went to prison for that for multiple years. And my case never actually came to fruition, but in
Mm.
my mind, I kind of like let it go because at least he wasn't back out on the street.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I was just sharing a little bit about, for me, there was kind of like maybe this relief that the person was off the street, but not
Yeah.
necessarily a relief in, like I knew that I had done the right thing. I knew that um, I had stepped forward and I had like owned it and claimed
Yeah.
it. And thankfully, I had a really good friend at the time who came with who basically convinced me to do this and like came
Mm.
with me and pushed me to do it. Um, but I never got what I think was like the satisfaction of like facing them in court and
Mhm. Mhm.
saying like, no, you did this to me and you need to pay for that.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, so I'm wondering if you had that.
No, my story is very similar to yours, because although I went to court, because of my age, the court decided nothing happened. Nothing happened. So the judge, she was a woman, and she told me but she told me unofficially that I was a victim and that what had happened to me was not normal. But it was not made official. So that's very interesting, because that brought me to a point where I decided to acknowledge myself as a victim. And
Yeah,
then it went even deeper in making me decide what I wanted to do with that. My lawyer, he said to me, you should try again. I don't know, there's a word for that. I don't know it in English.
yeah,
And I really pondered, and I said, no, no, I'm done. I'm done. Now I am going to find peace within myself, by myself. And that doesn't have anything to do with my father, with my abuser. That's to do with me and with what I'm choosing to do with my life right now.
yeah,
So that opened, it's funny because we could think it's bad news, but actually for me it was great news, because it opened the door to real peace.
yeah,
Because ultimately inner peace doesn't come from outside, it comes from the inside. And you can be recognized, acknowledged as a victim. You can go to court and really express your anger and everything, but if you don't do the inner work, it's going to stay the same. You're not going to be at peace.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely felt that. And, I'm here much later in life having dealt with the majority of this and gone through, the process of doing it in myself and gone through the process of also forgiving, um, forgiving but not forgetting
yeah,
all parties involved. And just, I mean, for me it was, this idea and this realization that anyone who does things like this is sick within themselves and they are just unable to cure themselves. And
yeah,
as someone who cannot be mad at someone else for having any other disease, I cannot continue to hold those feelings of anger and hostility because
mm,
I'm really just hurting myself because they are diseased, and I just
yes,
have to
yeah,
recognize that as they are diseased and they have not taken the steps, nor will they take the steps to
yeah,
change that. And I need to take the steps within myself to make sure that I'm okay and that I don't suffer from their
exactly,
disease.
exactly. You know what you're saying really resonates with one of the teachings I really like. I work in my spiritual lineage. I've had the opportunity to work a lot with Jesus's word in Aramaic, his native language, and he's talking about forgiveness, and he says something along those lines. Forgiveness is about going back to your own rhythm, going back to your own essence, and letting go, cutting off the knots that ties you to the other person. And to me, such a profound teaching, because it takes us back to our inner power, inner responsibility, that the only work we have to do, and ultimately we can do, is taking care of ourselves, going back to ourselves, reclaiming our power. And then life takes care of what needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So we don't have to push anything except deciding to go back to who we are. And that, when we have been abused, it's such a difficult and beautiful journey, because we have been taken our power. Our power has been taken away from us. And
Yeah.
so now we need to choose to consciously build, reclaim, rediscover that power again. But because we do it consciously, we can go so far, and we can really feel our power so much deeply, so much deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. I I feel that. And uh I know, so something that came to mind while you were talking was this idea of doing it consciously,
Mm.
right? Because sometimes we take actions and are doing it not with the consciousness
Yeah.
of trying to reclaim our power, like, maybe acting out sexually, right? I know that you are going to speak a little bit about healing sexual assault with kind of a sensuality. And I know that for me, I kind of went and tried to take power back
Mm-hmm.
and, was not doing it in a conscious way and just kind of felt it didn't feel like anything. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel like I was in control because I didn't do it in a conscious way. I
Yeah.
was just trying to take the control back any way that I could, but it wasn't actually giving me any sense of control. So I think that just that word consciously, one of my favorite words in the whole world is intention. And
Yeah.
you
Intention
need
is so powerful.
Exactly. And if you don't set the intention, you don't consciously understand why you're acting in a certain way or why you're doing something, you can't ever heal what you're trying to heal.
Yeah.
So I think that that is a major takeaway for anyone
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah. How, from what space do we come from when we act? Do we come from a space where we're still fighting or responding, reacting in one way or another to our trauma? Or are we coming from a space where we feel our own essence? Or that could be, to me as a woman, it feels very much a space that is grounded in the womb. How do we feel in our womb? If we go back to our body and take a few minutes to breathe in our belly, we can feel that space of the hips and of the womb being, of the pelvis being filled with presence. And that can be an anchor, um, something we can rely on, a feeling that we can start relying upon to navigate with our actions. Where do I come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for someone that has experienced sexual assault and has not fully dealt with it, what what do you think should be the actions taken?
Hmm. First of all, I want to say that everyone is different and everyone is unique. So I can talk in general terms. And that I want to be very clear about that, because I know that even tiny things can trigger us when we have experienced sexual abuse or any kind of abuse. So I really want to be clear with that. And I can only talk about what worked with me. And what worked with me is going back. You were talking about sensuality. So it was going back to my senses in a safe way, using sensuality in a non-sexual way, because sensuality, we very often we confuse it with sexuality, but actually it's about the senses. So we are naturally sensual beings, and sensuality you can access your senses and your pleasure, your joy of being through taste, through smell, through gentle touch, through nature, through movement. There are many doors to access the senses. So one of the most gentle door for me, or maybe two, I could say, is breath work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sitting down every morning, starting with 2 minutes. 2 minutes, you sit down in a quiet space that is just for you, and you breathe. You are with your breath. You don't try to do any fancy breath or whatever. You don't try to force your breath to go in that direction or another. You just are with your breath. And you start calling upon the witness in you. And you just start observing, and a lot of things are going to happen. I can tell you. So 2 minutes, and then if it's comfortable, 5 minutes, and you grow little by little. And another door that for me has been really great and also easy is nature, relation with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Walking barefoot on the ground and feeling your feet in contact with the earth, smelling the earth after the rain, or stroking the green moss in the forest. And that for me has been an easy, accessible, safe way to start with.
Yeah.
And I was doing all that on my own, so I was not triggered by anyone else's presence. So that was, yeah, the most accessible things to start with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, especially, I know that I've done a lot of sitting with myself and my breath, and that's some of the hardest work that you can do
Yes.
because your mind wants to be anywhere but there. And
Exactly.
you know, making sure that you do not start to drift off into like, what do I need to do today? What,
Yeah.
what's going on my phone? What's going on in other places? What is the
Yeah.
other person down the road thinking about? Just a
Yeah.
million different things that you could go. And so that is that is a really important place to start, to be able, because I think that a lot of times we run away from everything, right? So everything else is a distraction away from where we need to be. And it's so clearly seen in those moments where you are trying to be with yourself. So that
Yeah.
ability to like allow yourself to just be you and to just be with you
Yeah. Yeah.
is is sometimes terrifying.
It is terrifying. It always makes me laugh to talk about that, because I remember that for the first, actually quite a long time, for the first 2 or 3 years of doing this breath work, I was I was doing my to-do list, or I was doing my grocery list, or whatever, but everything just to not feel the feels. So today it makes me laugh, but I know how hard it is and how discouraging it can be. So that's why I'm always advising to start short,
Yeah.
because of course you're gonna encounter all your monkey mind, all your belief system, all your old patterns, all your self-loathing thoughts and all that. So we have to be very gentle on ourselves and always remember that what goes into our mind is not us. But that's also why support is so important.
Yeah.
So important to receive support, because one of the hardest thing to me, for example, to overcome the self-loathing patterns, has been consistency, taking care of myself and doing was what was healthy for me, nurturing for me, keeping up with healthy routines on a daily basis. That has been really, really a journey for me, because, you know, you try to create new habits, and then, of course, when we want to change our, our mind, what, let's say, what has been protecting us for so many years is kind of panicking because we are letting that go.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're trying to put all these healthy habits in your life, and all of a sudden you have, let's say, really frank, you have all your shit coming up. And so it's very discouraging. And that's why for me support is so important, to have someone to back you up, someone you can call when you fall down, someone just to hear you, to witness you, and to cheer you up, to remind you that it's possible. Yes, you can do 5 minutes. You can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that so many times people have tons of friends or a lot of friends, but it's all so surface level and we don't go deeper than that. So how did you find your support system? Because
Mm,
that is sometimes one of the hardest parts for most people, because
yes.
we have like all of these relationships, right? But they're not deep. They're kind of just surface, or like
Yeah.
I tend to call sometimes like single serving friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just for one thing. They're just for one time in your life. They're not like
Mm.
those deep connections where you have this type of support.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and it's very human. Holding the space for such experiences and emotion is really, it's demanding. So not everyone is ready for that. Yeah, because it requires of you to have gone inside and looked at your own shadows. So how it happened to me is through spirituality. I met my spiritual teacher, and she's a woman, and she offered me a space that was not a therapy space, but that was a space of unconditional love. And through the practices she taught me, she, let's say, walked hand in hand with me towards just pointing where my own space of unconditional love actually was. So she held the space for me so that I could peel off the layers and rediscover that inner space of unconditional love. So she gave me tremendous support with her presence. And then I learned to offer myself the same gift of presence.
That's beautiful. I wonder, was there a specific thing about her that made you recognize that this is a safe space and that you were able to open up?
That's such a mystery. You know, when you, my mind, nothing happened in my mind, completely blank. You know, I think I'm into a lineage where we dance and we sing a lot. And so we were in a dance setting and organizing, you know, all the practicalities of how we spend the time together and how we deal with kitchen and all that. And she just started talking about, you know, I'm going to do the kitchen, the cooking today, something like that. And you know, she stood up, and the minute after, I was going to her and asking her to be initiated. So my heart recognized an atmosphere, really recognized an atmosphere. I I do believe, and I have experienced um, what in the Sufi lineage we say polishing the heart. That's we do with breath work. When you do breath work, you, as you were saying, all emotions and patterns are resurfacing. And what is resurfacing are things that are not you, that are not your true essence. So the more you let them move and you allow them to move through you and let them go, the more you polish your heart, the more you polish your being, and the more you can simply be in the present moment, which is always a sacred moment, whatever its color. And that can be felt by the heart. And I think my heart recognized that quality of being and got like, oh, I want to go there. That's safe.
Yeah.
And I can come back to myself as well because she knows how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing also for people who don't necessarily have the practice is that as humans, as women especially, we're kind of taught not to listen to our bodies, not to listen to our heart, not to listen to like intuition and gut. And that's when we get into trouble, right? When we rationalize above what we are actually feeling on an almost primal level.
Yeah.
And that is something that, I have been in a lot of ways in my life. I listen to my gut. Like and the times that I have rationalized beyond my gut and just gone or done something, those were the times where it was the wrong decision. So I think this idea of like actually feel into your body, actually feel into what your heart is saying, your gut is saying, you said before, like your pelvic area, your womb is saying, like
Yeah.
actually feeling into that and listening and not ignoring those feelings
Yeah.
is where you can really make that difference.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good starting point. I mean, Yeah, we can start simply with that. Listening, for example, if people who are watching us or listening to us want to try something, they could imagine a situation. Let it be neutral, like having ice cream. And how does it feel in the body if I visualize myself having ice cream right now? How does my body feel? Does it feel a yes? And if it's a yes, how does it feel in the sensations? Where can I locate it in my body? Is it tinglish? Is it warm? What is the quality I can put on that? And if it's a no for the ice cream, how do I recognize the no in my body and in my sensations? And when we start doing that with very neutral examples, then little by little we train ourselves to listen to our yeses and to our nos, and we become more and more able to recognize what is good for us, what is not good for us, and we can listen to that gut wisdom that you're talking about.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that I never even thought about it that way, but that's so powerful. If you can recognize your yes and no's with things that don't necessarily matter that much, you can train yourself to recognize it
Yeah.
in the things that matter.
Yeah. It's easier to start with ice cream than to start with, I don't know, your mom, your dad, or your abuser. Of course it's going to be very difficult. So let's play with all that. you know I like life has been so burdening to me because of my experience that I came to realize that heaviness, healing doesn't have to be heavy. We are dealing with deep stuff. So let's make that light, and let's have ice cream on the way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Healing doesn't have to be heavy.
Mm,
We are weighed down with so much in so many different
yeah,
aspects of our life that this should be a place that you go into with ease.
yeah,
Yeah, not
with
to say that it's
with
going to
ease.
be easy all the time,
No,
but you know, let's make it easier on ourselves.
yeah, with ease, support, and trust.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, as we're coming up on an hour, I know that a lot of
It goes
people,
so fast.
I know. Yeah, we're coming up on like 50 minutes now. I want to make sure that we talk about anything else that you want to share with the audience or anything else that's coming up for you right now.
Mm. What I want to share is, let's say, a pinch of hope, because I know that when we are starting our journey, our healing journey, very often our emotions are very overwhelming and we don't know how to handle them. We don't know how to deal with them and all that. It's just too much. So what I want to say to people, to everyone, is that reach for support, reach for the right support. And it's possible to recover. It's possible to reclaim your joy. It's possible to get a pleasurable, great life after abuse. We don't have to be the survivors all our life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's possible, and that's not easy, but that's completely doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get discouraged when it doesn't
Yes.
happen immediately, but allowing yourself that space and that time and knowing that it's okay if it takes 10 years. It's okay if it takes 20 years. It's okay
Yeah.
if it takes longer than that, as long as you are actively working on healing. and still taking small steps, whatever those steps may look like for you,
Yeah.
that it's okay.
Yeah.
And to allow ourselves to hope and to dream and to know that one day this, you know, this won't affect us in the way that it affects us
Yeah.
at the present
Yeah.
moment.
So that's faith. But let's really go deep into ourselves and find that space where faith is still here. When there is still that little flame that we only, it's very tiny, but we only need to breathe. How do you say? It's not breathe. I don't remember the name, the word, but blow some
Yeah.
air on that, blow your breath on that flame, and it's going to get bigger. So
Yes.
start breathing and
That's
ask for support. Ask for support. I mean, we didn't get support when that happened to us, but now we can be our own parents and ask for the support we need.
yeah. I think that was very important for me to realize that, you know, I had all of this pent up anger and emotion about, you know, when I was younger, I had no control over this and I did not get support. I did not get help. But then realizing that as an adult, that's my responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
That's not something that anyone else needs to do for me anymore because I'm not that child. And I do have a control. I do have the control over myself to get the support now.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that,
that's such an important step. You only have to jump once, and then you're on your way. It's movement, always bringing movement.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That's I'm obsessed with sharks, and that's one of the things that I love
Yeah.
about sharks is that they keep moving no matter what. Like they stay. You know, there are some sharks that cannot survive unless they're swimming,
Mm.
and
Mm.
so it's like this idea of like doesn't matter how fast you're going or where the end destination is, as long as as long as you keep moving and
Mm.
you can make it through anything.
Exactly. Keep moving. When there's movement, there is life. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm available if people need support. Of course, I'm here. I am the, let's say, the big sister. I mean, although I am trained and I could be labeled as a healer, I don't like that because, I really think that the time where there's one person who knows and the other one who is only receiving and being passive, or wondering how all that is going on, it's finished. It's finished. It's over.
yeah,
So I really like to say that I am that sister who has walked a bit further on the path and who has tools to share, to walk hand in hand with people if they are willing to start rediscovering themselves. Rumi, he says, he's a Sufi poet, and he says, to receive the blessings of the universe, you just have to close your umbrella, because the umbrella you're wearing is just preventing you from receiving the blessings.
yeah, that's beautiful. And if people do want to reach out, and I recommend that they do, how would they do so?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So they can go to my Facebook page, Asherah Dominique Boyer, and they will find me. They can DM me, and we can start discussing, and we can also plan a free discovery session. I don't know if there's a possibility to put the link
Yes.
um, Yeah, so I can give you the link, and people can schedule a discovery session with me, so we can have 45 minutes for them to be witnessed, be heard in their struggle, and then we look together if we are exciting to work together, if we're a match, if it says yes, and what is the best next step with me or with someone else. But let's see what is the best next step. Let's bring movement. Let's bring movement.
Yeah, I love that also you do 45 minutes, which is kind of unheard of, to have such a large space. Like, I think everyone should be taking you up on that because that is like enough time to really start movement, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, like discovery calls are much shorter, right? You've got like 10, 15 minutes to like get everything out and talk to this
Yeah,
person
well,
and
to me, 10
understand where
minutes is
they are.
just the time to say hello, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't work.
yeah, I love that. And so if people do start working with you, what are the different ways that you work with people? Are there group
Mm.
sessions? Is it one-on-one?
At the moment, it's only one-on-one, and I have a 3 months container that I call luxuriance, because for me, women are rich, luxuriant beings. So I want every woman to rediscover her own luxuriance. So we see each other weekly, and we do healing sessions, but I also share practices. So we do shadow work, but we also do singing. We also do movement. Um, yeah, I can think of yeah, we do a lot of things because we do back flowers. I am trained in various modalities, and so I'm using all of them according to what I feel matches the need of the woman. And we also use the medicine of cocoa. Is it in the US we say cocoa?
Yeah,
And
how
yeah,
say.
the medicine of the rose and the cocoa. It's very powerful medicine. So I send every woman a box with cocoa and ceremonial cocoa, and also flower essences to be used. It's a customized blend of flower essences. And so we go on Zoom and we do a ritual with cacao, and the woman and we drink the cacao together, we put intentions, and we go deep in our healing. Yeah. And the we call upon the elements with nature, fire, water, the earth. How do we feel all that inside of us? How can we tap into these resources that are available all the time around us and within us? So we do a lot of different practices together.
I love that. I love it. And I love cacao ceremony. I got a chance to do it many, many years ago now. Well, not that long, but like it feels like a lifetime ago, on a retreat in San Diego, a women's retreat. And it was an experience that shifted my life into, it was the beginning of me becoming me and
Mm,
me becoming this version of me. So it was really like at a time where I had just started to unravel and deal with all of the things that were bottled up and holding me back. And I was in the process of like getting rid of.
mm,
And it was an extremely powerful experience. And I still think about it and keep in touch with those women. So I think it's really beautiful that you bring it in as well.
mm. Yeah, I love cocoa, and I've started making raw chocolate for 10 years, and so being with chocolate and with cocoa on a daily basis has been such a deep healing for me as well. So I love this medicine.
Beautiful. Okay. So excited. I hope everyone reaches out. I will share your information.
Yeah.
Um, And I want to thank you for being here and sharing your story. And if the audience has any questions or you have any comments and you're watching this on the replay, I know it was a little bit of a different time than usual, but I had to have Asherah on, and I'm super excited. So if you're watching this on the replay, please share your stories. Please reach out to Asherah. I will share her information. And thank you so much for being here, Asherah.
Thank you, Galit. It's been an honor. And thank you for, being in the circle of the women, empowering other women. That's why we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Empowering each other.
That's beautiful. All right. Thank you so much. And please make sure to, if you're watching this now, you're watching this, you can reach me on Facebook, Galit Speaks, on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share this with anyone that you feel like needs it. I know that I will definitely be sharing this live. I'm so excited that we were able to tackle these really kind of heavy issues.
I loved our conversation.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Asherah, and have
Thank you.
an
Thank you,
amazing
Galit.
day.
Thank you. You too.